You want to see your players a little bit nervous. That's usually a good sign. That's where I hope some healthy nervousness would also come into play.
I think it was Denzel who said, the day I don't get nervous walking on a stage is the day I need to quit.
And so that's where the excitement comes from. There's some nervousness because it's a big task.
I want to make sure that we leverage this as an opportunity.
There's always excitement when you change. It's the opportunity to create new relationships. But for the most part, I've never really struggled with change. I know some people don't like change. It's all leadership. And I think the phrase servant leadership, it gets thrown around a lot. And servant leadership it's the only leadership model where the leader actually divests himself or herself of power.
Doctor, head coach, dad, number one son, right? You said you're your dad's favorite child?
Last I checked.
Yep. Okay. You're a lot of things. I think you're actually what I would call a nerdy jock. You got this whole, you're the head coach. I would have thought when I met you that you were going to be all athletics all the time, but no, you've been an administrator and teacher for over 20 years on top of the coaching. Man of many layers, Dr. Klint Pleasant.
Thank you. Right now, the important thing is that I'm Matt's friend.
Oh, there you go. I like that.
So thanks for having me. I've appreciated getting to know you and getting to know what you do and crossing paths with you in the community. And I appreciate that intro, but really I'm just happy to be here and chat with you.
Awesome. And I was telling you yesterday, it's my absolute greatest joy because in BLT&T fashion, business, life, technology, and transformations, you've got them all, but you're in the middle of a big transformation, if you will. That's really exciting. And so you've been appointed as the president of Southwestern Michigan College. And I got that right, correct?
You did.
Okay.
Nailed it.
And, you're from the Southeast Michigan area, and you and your family have just been so well known in the Rochester Christian University world, which I want you to talk all about that. But basically, you've been so well known on this side of the state, and you're about to move over to the west side of the state and take over as president, the 9th president of the college. And I want to make sure that we leverage this as an opportunity for any of those people that you're about to meet to maybe get to know you and get to know some of the layers that I'm so fortunate to know about you. And so I'm just so excited to do this and excited to, have all these other people get a little slice of Klint Pleasant.
Well, and again, I appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to the opportunity, and I'm sure we'll get into some of the details of all that. But yes, Southwestern Michigan College over on, in the southwest region of the state. Main campus is in Dowagiac. It's a residential campus. And then there's a satellite campus in Niles. The actual district of the college is in Cass County. And then it grabs just a couple parts of some adjacent counties. But that's the college district. And so we're looking forward to it. And yes, we've planted roots here. But one thing I would want to underscore, Matt, is that, I've moved around several times. SMC will actually be the 6th college that I've worked at. So even though, this last stint at RCU was a longer stint, we've had the opportunity to see some different things and get out and move around. And so really looking forward to making this next move.
Great. And I always love how transparent you are. And I asked you yesterday, I said, Klint, how excited are you? And you said, I'm 55 or more % excited, and the rest I'm nervous. And I think that's just who you are. You're a humble guy who's willing to admit that. So hopefully I didn't just out you.
No. I mean, it is what it is, and I'll be happy to admit that. And I'm sure some would say, if you didn't have some nervousness, then we would be worrying about you, right? It's like, before a big game, you want to see your players, a little bit nervous. That's usually a good sign, but I feel like I've prepared. And so that's the excitement. And there's always excitement when you change. I'm somebody, I know some people don't like change. And I suppose there's some things about change that I struggle with, but for the most part, I've never really struggled with change. And so that's where the excitement comes from, the new opportunity, new possibilities. But of course, there is some trepidation, there's some nervousness because it's a big task, and it's one that and I understand that. And so that, that's where I hope some healthy nervousness would also come into play.
Yeah, no, I think was it Magic Johnson or somebody or Denzel Washington? I think it was Denzel who said, "If the day I don't get nervous walking on a stage is the day I need to quit."
Well said. I think that's right.
I mean, I will give him the credit on it.
Yeah, let's do that for now.
But maybe he'll want to join the show.
I see a picture of Kobe here, so maybe Kobe.
He says get better and better every day, right? So tell us a little bit about your career history, and I'm gonna force some bragging in here because that's the other thing I know about you is that you're not a good bragger. So you've done some pretty cool things in your life, and tell us a little bit about it in terms of talk about the career a little bit. I
will. And you just cut me off or direct me as you need to. So I grew up in Lake Orion, and of course. But sometimes it really feels like Rochester because we spent so much time in Rochester with my dad being part of the community here with work.
And maybe we actually let's give a little bit of that background. So let's talk about your roots actually.
So my roots. So really going back, my grandparents, Lucian and Ida Palmer, and their two children, Ed and Pat. Pat is now my mother.
Okay.
They moved up to the area in 1959, actually a little bit before 1959, because they were asked to come up here and help start a college, a Christian college. They wanted to start a faith-based college in Southeastern Michigan. So they started at the time what was called North Central Christian College. And my grandfather was asked to come up here and be the first academic dean and really help get the college started in terms of the architecture and really building the curriculum and kind of starting it because he was an administrator and an educator by trade. He went to Vanderbilt. So they came up here in 1959, started the school that we now know as Rochester Christian University. It's been through a few iterations with different names. And then my dad grew up in Flint, Michigan, and he came to the college in the 60s to play basketball. And he was smitten by the president's daughter. And so they started to date. And of course, as they say, the rest is history, right? So they ended up getting married. Well, of course, the president wanted his daughter to stay around. So he offered his new son-in-law a job. I think that's how the story goes.
Okay.
But my dad ended up, employed there and worked there for over 50 years. And so I grew up on the campus. We literally lived in an apartment at the end of one of the dormitories for 4 or 5 years. And then we eventually moved off campus. And that's where I referenced Lake Orion earlier in the show. And so I grew up with on campus, that really being sort of my backyard. And my dad's players were my heroes. I looked up to them and I couldn't even distinguish between them and NBA players. I mean, that was my whole world. Was at practice every day, was at games. My dad took me everywhere.
And Dad was head basketball coach.
He was head basketball coach and a lot of other things.
Okay.
He was dean of students. He was the athletic director. He taught courses, went back and got his master's degree and taught courses, actually helped then start the sports management program, which now I think is the biggest program. Or one of the biggest programs on campus, and had some other jobs, was baseball coach. And so grew up in that context. And then when it came time to go to college, Matt, I wanted nothing to do with it. I wanted to get out and do my own thing. I wanted to blaze my trail. I wanted to see if I could kind of make it on my own, if you would. And I've always had this sort of spirit of adventure and wanted to go see the world. I figured there was more to the world than just Southeastern Michigan. Very, very different than my dad in that regard. My dad's just content to stay here and he can look at someone's pictures, but this is it for him. I wanted to go see it. Since then, I'll pause. Since then, I've been to all 50 states, and now my goal is to be on every continent.
Okay.
I've got a few continents left. Obviously, the tough one's Antarctica, but maybe there's a path to get there. And so I went as far away as I could. And the other thing I did is instead of thriving in basketball, again, I kind of wanted to be my own person. And so I played football and ended up playing football in college at Abilene Christian University, and that's in West Texas. Again, went a long ways from home. And really didn't come back. That was in 1993 and stayed gone until 2005. And so my career path from that point was when I graduated. Actually, before I graduated from ACU, I actually moved on and transferred to a place called Lipscomb University in Nashville, because probably my sophomore year in college, I knew I want to be a college basketball coach. And I knew that would be hard to do that upon graduation. And so I transferred to Lipscomb University to work with the coach there, because at the time that coach was the most sought after coach to learn under really in the country.
Okay.
I mean, all the big names.
Who was that?
So his name was Don Meyer.
Okay.
And you could search him. He's won ESPY awards. I mean, he's someone that Bobby Knight or even John Wooden would say, this is the best coach. I mean, really quite a, just an unbelievable coach and an unbelievable human. And so he took me under his wing. He mentored me. I worked with him for a few years. And then when I graduated from Lipscomb, had a coaching job lined up, and that took me to Wayne State. So I actually did come back to Michigan just for a minute. I was at Wayne State for 1 year. We had an amazing season. We were very good. We were ranked as high as, I think, number 2 in the country, NCAA Division II. I was working and living in Detroit. And then after that year, I got a job at University of Tennessee Martin. And that was sort of the goal at the time. I thought I wanted to coach at the highest level, if you would, NCAA Division I. And so I thought that would be something, boy, if I could do that by the time I'm 40, that'd be great. Well, it happened when I was 23. And so I went from Wayne State to UT Martin. And that's in Martin, Tennessee, in the northwest region of the state of Tennessee, kind of a rural area. Coached there for a few years. Got married when I was there to Rachel, who I met at Lipscomb.
Okay.
And she's originally from St. Louis. And so after 2 years at UT Martin, I was offered a job at Kent State University, which is just outside of Cleveland in Kent, Ohio, and went to Kent State and loved it there. When we were there, we had an amazing run. It's March Madness right now as we're doing this show. And we were the Cinderella story in the year 2001 in March, the March Madness. So we won our conference in the Mid-American Conference, and we played Oklahoma State in the first round and won. We played Alabama in the second round and won. We beat Pittsburgh in the third round to go to the Elite Eight. And then we lost to Indiana University to go to the Final Four. It was a great team, and there was a couple NBA players on that team, and an NFL player, Antonio Gates,
who
went on and played in the NFL and actually was inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame.
Gives most of the credit to you as well.
I think he does. Yeah, we could maybe see if we had phone a friend here. Yeah, and so just an amazing run. And so my boss at Kent State actually got the Arkansas job. So he's in the SEC, and he asked me to go with him. I'm thinking, well, I'm just 20-something years old and already an assistant in the SEC. And sort of in that transition of that Arkansas opportunity, Abilene Christian University, my alma mater, calls and says, "Would you come be our head basketball coach?" And so already have a chance now to become a head coach. So moved all the way back to West Texas, and we loved it. We were there, thought we'd be there forever. But after 3 years of being there, my wife and I had our first kid. And I'll pause here in a minute. After we had our first child, we both thought, my goodness, it'd be nice to raise our family a little bit closer to our families. Again, she's from St. Louis. I'm from here. And so that's what brought us back to Rochester in 2005.
Wow.
So, and then, the story really doesn't end there, but I'll pause. We came back in 2005.
Yeah. Wow. She was along for the ride with you.
She really was. She really was. I mean, I still have memories of me, calling and saying, "Hey, I think we're going to move here. I think we're going to move there." And we were, this was kind of internet. So we're calling people and trying to find realtors and where would we live. And, we're just packing up boxes and moving. And I guess we moved, 3, 4, 5 times just within the first few years.
Wow.
So.
That's great. So, in that journey, I mean, you must have picked up some amazing mentors along the way. I mean, obviously some of those guys brought you along with them. You followed them. Mentorship has just been in your blood. I know it's something that's important to you that you love to do. You love to help others. You love to help lead. Talk about the mentorship and maybe just even a couple examples of where you're like, oh man, the blessings, the fortune that you had to be with those people?
Absolutely. I guess it would start with my dad. I mean, growing up with a dad who was not only a college basketball coach, but a leader of men. My dad also, maybe not everyone knows this, but he also pastored a church. He preached on Sundays kind of on the side. And so I saw my dad do a lot of different things.
That's where he made the big bucks, right?
That's where he made the big bucks for sure. And saw him do a lot of things well. And so, it would start there. And then when I was at Lipscomb University, we've already referenced Don Meyer. He had a tremendous impact on me, so much so that now I'm 51 years old, and I don't think a day goes by where I don't think about him. Yeah, he passed away a few years ago, and that story has actually been chronicled on ESPN. And again, he was quite the personality. But not only did he make an impact on me related to basketball, but just really life. It was always more than basketball to him, and so he made a profound impact on me. And I still find myself to this day when I do things thinking to myself, I hope that made him proud, because he really invested in me. And here I am telling you on this podcast, I'm still grateful for that. And then every coach I worked with, I learned so much from. Ron Hammy at Wayne State, Brett Campbell at Tennessee Martin. When I was at Kent State, I was with a gentleman by the name of Stan Heath. Stan Heath was Tom Izzo's assistant at Michigan State when they won the national championship in 2000. And so great players, you probably remember that team. And so when I was able to work with Stan, all that mentoring that he got from Tom Izzo and all those stories, I benefited from all that. And so, and then I spent some time with a coach named Jim Christian, who was on that staff, who then spent time as the head coach at Boston College, TCU, Ohio University. He played for Rick Pitino. And so I found myself just really, as you said, being mentored by some people that had tremendous wisdom, and they took the time to pour into me and to look my way. And I think I filed that away as a youngster and thought, this is something that's important. And as you said, I've always tried to do that as well when I have found myself in leadership roles.
That's fantastic. Is there one undercurrent, if you were to just kind of maybe homogenize one line or one belief or whatever it might be, statement, when you look at all of those guys, what's one kind of resounding theme that comes out of that?
It's a great question. You asked for one theme. I'd probably have to give you a long sentence and use a few semicolons.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think making sure that everything you do with a tremendous amount of humility, and really trying to check your ego and make sure that what you're doing, you're truly doing it for the right reasons. And the right reasons would be pouring into people. In this instance, pouring into young men, coaching men's college basketball. This is getting to be a long sentence here. I think checking your ego, carrying yourself with a sense of deep humility, and being mindful that perhaps our job is to less and less make it about me and more make it about the other. And I learned that lesson along the way. And I think if I would have to summarize it in this one long sentence, I think that would be my best attempt.
Well, I mean, I think as you say that, what comes up for me is that I think most coaches, especially I guess anywhere along the way besides when you get into professional sports, they have to be acknowledging the fact that the majority of the people on this team are not going to be making it to the majors or to the pros. Right. So they're building those people up. They're building their students / athletes up to prepare for the world, really, because they're not preparing every one of them for the NFL, the NHL, the NCAA or the NBA. That's what they're preparing them for. And so would that be something that you would say for yourself when you are pouring into these young men?
Absolutely. In fact, I think the more it's about basketball, or whatever sport you're coaching, the more transactional it is. And it's okay. I need said service, and you help me with that.
I need this many baskets. And thank you very much. Here's your check, and on your way.
it becomes more transactional. And I think you said it really well. So the approach I always have tried to take is that, this is a human being in front of me. And even if they get what they want in terms of the sport, there's still going to come a time when they can't play anymore. And that's when life kicks in. And so, of course, it's always been more than just in my case, basketball. In fact, I would actually say that basketball is not the thing that's ever driven me, even though for 28 years I've been a college basketball coach. It's been that relationship.
Yeah. It's just been your vehicle.
It's been the vehicle, right? It's been the context in which you can come alongside someone, create a relationship, start the process of building trust. I don't know if you're familiar with Patrick Lencioni, but he talks about the 5 dysfunctions of a team. And the biggest dysfunction, the base of that pyramid, is an absence of trust. And so if you're going to have a positive relationship, if you're going to have a healthy team, it's got to start with trust. And there's trust is sort of, it can be a currency. There's a speed of trust. It can be slow or it can happen rather quickly.
I've been hearing a lot lately about the knock. When an employee knocks on your office door and says, "Got a minute?" and you immediately know it's some sort of IT incident. But Oxium IT can help. Whether you're having a problem, need consulting, an upgrade, or a managed IT approach, they focus on preventing cyber attacks and proactive solutions that deliver results. My friend Matt Loria and everyone at Oxium are ready to help before or after you get the knock. Visit Oxium.com and let Oxium IT help you outsmart chaos.
Understanding that and pouring into players in that way and developing a relationship, makes it less transactional and more transformational. And, of course, basketball is the context, but when we get together now with former players, we really don't talk a lot about like the ins and outs or the intricacies of the game. What we do is we talk about the funny stories, the relationships, or the fact that I was able to go back and, perform their wedding. I even have performed or eulogized a former player's funeral. And so those are the real takeaways. And those are the things, I read recently, when you're on your deathbed, only 2 things matter. Who you loved and who loved you. If you're a person of faith, I would add there's a third thing, and that's your relationship with your Lord. But I don't think when you're on your deathbed, you're thinking, oh, if I could have just had one more championship ring, or make sure you dust that trophy off, before I pass. That I don't think that's what we're doing.
That's great. So, you in your timeline, you paused for a second after you said, okay, well, then we had our first child, and you moved back here. Life changed a bit at that point in time.
Changed a lot. So we came back in 2005, originally because we wanted to be closer to family, because we now had a family of our own. Our first daughter was born. Her name was Abby. She was born on New Year's Day, January 1st, 2005. So we moved back to Michigan in June. And we had only been here a month and a half or so. And to make a long story, in fact, a story that I've told over an entire weekend, to make it short, my wife became incredibly ill and was eventually diagnosed with, at the time, a malignant brain tumor. And we had met with an oncologist and a neurosurgeon and talked about taking the tumor out and what the cancer treatments would be like. And we did the whole thing where we videotaped her kind of saying goodbye to our baby at the time. And, just all those really difficult things that come with a diagnosis like that.
Sure. And
then what we discovered, we didn't know at the time, but while we were waiting, Matt, for that surgery to take place to remove that tumor, she was just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And one day I came home, we actually bought a house in Oxford. And so I drove from Rochester to Oxford, coming home from work to check on her. And she was, I found her laying in the bed. And she was in a pool of her own urine. And she was completely unresponsive. I thought she was dead. And so I called 911, and they came to pick her up. And they said, "Where do you want to go?" Again, we're in Oxford. They said, where do you want to go? And I said, "Well, Let's take her to Crittenden. At the time, we're actually across the street right now from that hospital. It used to be called Crittenden. And
now Henry Ford.
Now it's Henry Ford, yeah. And, Matt, looking back at it, that was probably a mistake because Crittenden didn't do brain surgeries, but I knew it was the closest place, and it was the place where all the people that love me lived. And so I just said, take us there. And we got here to Crittenden, and they knew right away she was in trouble. She'd had what was called a midline brain shift. There was so much swelling in her brain that it had shifted in her skull, and essentially the brain was just kind of being pulled down the spinal cord. And she was, as every minute went past, she was dying.
Wow.
And Crittenden said, there's nothing we can do for her. She needs brain surgery right now, emergently, but we don't do that here. And so they called down to main Henry Ford in Detroit and said, you need to come get her. And Henry Ford said, we're full. And so we just sat here. We sat here and literally we were watching her fade away. And I remember thinking to myself, I can't believe this is happening. Here we are in the United States of America. We're not in, some third world country that doesn't have resources, right?
Sure.
Please help her. And finally, in the middle of the night, they finally came to get her in an ambulance, and we drove down. I drove down in the front of the ambulance, and when we got to Henry Ford, the neurosurgeon put a flashlight in her eyes, and her eyes didn't react, and he actually cursed a few times and said, we've got to go now. And he actually gave me a minute to tell her goodbye, and he said, I'm gonna give you a minute to tell her goodbye. And I kissed her goodbye, told her I loved her, and they took her away. And they worked on her for about 8 hours. At one point, a nurse came to me to give me a Ziploc bag of her earrings that they removed, but she didn't have any updates. And finally, the neurosurgeon came in. It was in the middle of the night, so now it's the next day. The neurosurgeon came into me and said, we removed the tumor. He said, I'm so sorry. He said, we thought it was a malignant brain tumor. It was just an infectious mass. It was a tumor, but it was an infection that was just growing. So he said we removed it. And then the whole thing. A lot of trauma. Not sure if she'll wake up, and if she does, she'll be severely mentally handicapped. And so after a few hours, I went to see her, and I whispered in her ear that I loved her, and she whispered back that she loved me too. So I thought that was a good sign. We've been building back ever since that day. So she's still here. But to say we've been through a lot would be an understatement.
Yeah. And are there lasting effects that
there are. So she's 55, 60% blind, but the problem is it's not just like from here over. She's blind in fields. And so it's impacted her depth perception. She doesn't have her full driving privileges. She has only limited driving ability. So lots of effect there. And then her memory very much, her short-term memory has very much been impacted, which sometimes comes in handy.
I was going to say,
long-term memory is fine, but her short-term memory is and then very, very protective of her sleep and her resting, because that's what an injured brain needs. It continues to heal. There's this thing called neuroplasticity where the brain can slowly sort of heal, but it takes time and it takes rest. And so, how
many years are we post that?
This happened in
event?
2005.
Okay. So we're 21 years since then. And
in some ways we still are grasping for answers and help. We kind of move around from doctor to doctor. She stays on medicine to help, to try to help. And so it's been quite a journey.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you've coined the phrase or you've shared the phrase with me, post-traumatic growth. And I would say that you're right in the firefight there. You know all about it.
Yes, I did not coin the phrase. I wish I would have. So we all know, Matt, about post-traumatic stress, and surely I've dealt with that. Perhaps you have.
Absolutely.
We know that oftentimes that's associated with our troops. Our troops come home, and there's all sorts of post-traumatic stress from what they have been through and what they've witnessed and what they've seen. And it happens when someone's in a car accident. It happens all sorts of different ways, right? And we all know, it seems that we all know this phrase, post-traumatic stress. But there's this other side of it. And the other side is, well, can there be post-traumatic growth? In other words, can you go through something really hard? Can you go through something really difficult? Can you go through something that's gut-wrenching and use that experience to actually create a better version of yourself? Now, that's a real dumbed down explanation, but there's post-traumatic growth. And I came across this concept, and right away, it made sense to me.
You identified with it?
I identified with it. I have devoured everything that I can kind of find on the subject. And again, this phrase has been around a while.
Have you written on the subject? I know you have written a couple of books.
I was fortunate enough to write one. I have not written on this subject. I mean, I've just talked about it and maybe, just written, kind of back and forth, but nothing published at all. But it's sort of like the philosopher Nietzsche said, and you'll remember this famous quote, if it doesn't kill you, it will make you stronger.
Sure.
Nietzsche said that, and that's been talked about for years.
My sister-in-law gave me a little sticker that says, "But did you die though?" There
you go. And so we don't say that to be insensitive. Mm-hmm. We're just making the point. If it doesn't kill, if it kills you, then
there you go.
That's a problem. But if it doesn't kill you, then it actually what happened is it created an opportunity to make you stronger. And so I don't know if Rachel would agree. She probably would disagree. But when I think about her story, in some ways, I don't even know if I would turn the clock back if I could, because it has shaped us in ways that I don't know if we would have ever been shaped otherwise. And
it shaped your children, I would imagine, too. Do you have more than one child?
I have two children. I have two daughters. I have a daughter.
So you went on to have another child.
Yes, and there's a whole story there. But yes, the neurosurgeon ended up saying clearing us to have another kid. Which, made me nervous because, I said, I'm not very smart, but I know when you have a child, there's a little bit of strain there because Rachel wanted to have it natural. And I'm like, what are we doing here? But we did. We had a second child, Julia. So Abby's 21. She's getting ready to be a senior at Pepperdine University and plans to matriculate into law school. Okay. And then Julia is our youngest, and she is a sophomore at Rochester High. But yeah, so the last thing I'll say about post-traumatic growth, unless you want to go in another direction with it, is one of the ways that I have tried to describe it, Matt, is I love going out west, and particularly the state of Utah. I don't know if you've been to Utah, but I really have enjoyed hiking in those national parks. And so you'll know this because you've been there, but you see these beautiful red rock formations, and they're just shaped and cut and shaped in all sorts of amazing shapes.
Oh, yeah.
But it strikes me that, we go out there and we're in awe of that beauty. But the reason why those rocks are so beautiful is because they've been beaten on. They've been beaten on for hundreds of thousands of years by wind and rain and erosion. And through that pain and through that process of being beaten on, it's shaped them into something that we now say is beautiful. And my thought is, can it be the same with us? We go through something hard, we go through something traumatic, we go through something painful. And if we allow it to be a great teacher, maybe it can shape us into a more beautiful version of ourselves. I believe that. And so that's how I choose to look at post-traumatic growth as something that I want to talk about.
Wow. But a beautiful analogy how could any of us argue with that? I've always said too that there's something special when you meet someone, and you don't always know what it is, but I've found that when I've connected with someone quickly, that there's a depth to them that as you learn their story, you kind of find out what bad things happened, and it gives them this just different view of the world, right? That certain things don't matter. Right. And I'm not saying that they, that they're carefree or that they're living irresponsibly. But have you noticed that, I mean, when you think about, we've got some friends, we've got a common friend who lost a child. I actually didn't know him that way. I didn't know him until more recently. Actually knew him before you. Did not know that he was associated with you or our other friend, Chris, any of that. Just met him through some business connections, and we connected right away. And, and we've had plenty of trauma. And if God's listening, we're all filled up over here. Good. We don't need any more.
We've met our quota.
I think we're okay for now. But we really connected, and then come to find out, that he and his wife dealt with some real tragedy. Yeah. And it's like, I start to look back and I go, well, maybe that's why they're such special people, right? Is that they can look at the world and go, whether it's financial success or, whatever, that stuff doesn't really matter as much. Yeah. And maybe that's the reason. I don't know, that you just have that different perspective of what life is all about.
Well, I think you just said the word perspective. That's the word that, was at top of mind when you finished talking there, is that and the other thing I would say is that pain and trauma can be, and I referenced this a little bit a minute ago, but it can be a great teacher. And we can turn that into, dare I say, giftedness. And I think that's what our friend has done. I think our friend has taken something that is every parent's worst nightmare. Can you imagine losing a kid? I just can't. And every time I'm around him, I'm in awe. I'm in awe of his resiliency. And he, without maybe knowing it, has embraced post-traumatic growth. And there's something about that pain that he's negotiated, and he's made the decision to turn that into now giftedness, where he can help and he can serve and he can come alongside other people. And
in his own way, too.
In his own way,
right?
In his own way. And it's a real gift. We don't want these things. One of my friends calls pain and trauma and suffering the terrible gift. It's a gift, but it's a terrible gift.
Yeah, right. Well, I think there's some biblical stuff too, right? Didn't Jesus talk about some of that?
He actually guaranteed it.
Okay.
He said, in this life you will have troubles. In this life you will have struggles. It's sort of a guarantee. And the old saying goes, what are we promised in life? Death, taxes, and a little bit of trauma along the way. And we're not saying this. We're not trying to be negative on your show this afternoon. We're just talking about life.
Right.
We're just talking about life. And when you encounter someone, and this has really helped me. This has really helped me in my walk at trying to be a leader, is anytime I meet someone or come alongside someone, I remind myself there's a story there. There's a story there. And I hope it causes me to be a little more compassionate, which then opens up the possibility for a relationship to blossom.
Yep.
And it can be beautiful.
That's awesome. That's leads me right into thinking about, your path to becoming president of this organization. And whether it was your dream to become a president of a college or university, or to become the head coach or whatever, nothing ever takes a straight line. There's always some twists and turns. And so here you are. You've kind of gone through the twists, turns, disappointments, et cetera, that you've dealt with so far. So now that you're here, why this opportunity? Why did you say yes when they offered you this position? And what excites you about it? What is Klint 4.0 here going to be? Because you've already explained at least 3 lives. In the stories that you've told, you've at least lived 3.
Yeah.
There's a 4th one coming here.
Wow.
You're probably a cat. I think that would probably 9 life. You're probably a 9 life sort of guy.
I hope.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you asking that question. It's a big question, and I'll do my best to think through it with you.
Well, and I'm gonna add a little color to this. You've said no to other opportunities plenty of times. There was a coaching job that was very important, very career moving for you that you said no to. So you're a pensive guy. You're a thoughtful guy when it comes to what's the right move. So you saying yes to this is not something they didn't just offer this and you jump. You go in with thought. So I want to make sure people had that color about you, and understood that about you.
Thank you for that.
That you're not an impulsive.
No,
person.
no. And I really can't be because of some of the things I previously mentioned, with Rachel's health and sort of the track we took. And so I'm very, very cerebral about, I understand, Matt, when I make a decision, it has ripple effects, right? This is not just me in a vacuum. There's ripple effects to this. There's a wife who negotiates some serious health concerns. There's not one but two, children who are the love of my life. There's family, there's friends.
There's a legacy too. I mean, you can't screw up the Pleasant name.
There's that too. My grandfather was president at the local school we mentioned. My dad's worked there for over 50 years.
His name's on the building.
I've done now 21 years there. And so, and we have been fortunate enough to get some job offers in those last 21 years. Most of those have been other coaching opportunities, and some of them, my goodness, have been really appealing. Perhaps I should have even taken some of them, but for whatever reason, we've been slow. We've been thoughtful. I would never dream of making a decision without putting it up for what I call communal discernment. I'd want to talk to someone like you, someone that kind of knows me, who's less emotional, but who's thoughtful and can help me process it. And so I'm very serious about that process. And I did the same thing with this job. In fact, the job, when I found out that I was a final candidate, I actually took my name out of the running for the job, just because I was concerned that, I was very attracted to it, but I had some concerns about my family. Right. And then it wasn't until, the chairman of the board, Tom, called me back and said, let's have a discussion about that. And then in that discussion, it's amazing what can happen when you just connect with somebody.
You bet.
And in that discussion, we discovered, that perhaps we can find a way to make this work. But I think you asked, why this one? Why now?
Yeah. Why now? Why'd you say yes to this one? When you had other opportunities.
So I would start by saying, I guess that was the intro. I'd start by saying I never have aspired to be a CEO or a college president. That it wasn't like I grew up saying that's what I want to do one day. And hopefully that's clear if you go back and watch the show of what we talked about earlier. I kind of just grew up, humbly kind of watching my dad and thought I'd go into coaching and did that at several different stops. And it's been a full life. And if that's all I ever did, I think that's been enough, and it's been very gratifying. But I would say, Matt, around 2016, 2017, I started to have an itch. And that itch was, I wonder if there's something more. I wonder if I'm shortchanging myself. I wonder if there is another opportunity. I wonder if I'm holding myself back. I wonder if I'm scared. I wonder if I'm scared to step out and do something different because I've created this identity that I'm a college basketball coach and carrying on my dad's legacy. And I think doing that well. But I just started to have this, and one of my philosophy professor in college, who I'm still friends with, he would say, Klint, if you have a place that really itches, you eventually have to scratch it. And I guess what I'm saying, Matt, is I kept having an itch. And eventually I thought, I need to pay attention to this. And so what I did was I had some people in my circle of influence that were really encouraging me to go get a terminal degree, to go get a doctorate degree. In fact, probably 18 years ago, I actually went to law school. I originally was going to do that a long time ago, and then ended up having to move away from law school after that first semester because the university needed all hands on deck to kind of navigate some fundraising and some things like that. And so I put that to bed for a while, the idea of a terminal degree. And then it resurfaced in 2016. And so the main reason I did it is I just wanted to keep learning. And again, I don't know if you're familiar with the Enneagram, but I'm really into like personality testing, and I'm really into the Enneagram. In fact, I've even kind of done weekend seminars on it, and I'm a 3 on the Enneagram.
Okay,
and so what that is. So what a 3 on the Enneagram means is that I'm very driven, and I like achieving things. And so I think some of that, some of my DNA and personality was just starting to become restless.
Can you size somebody up by knowing them? Do you know what number they are?
Yeah, I feel like I've gotten pretty good at it.
So what am I? Yeah,
you're probably you probably have some 3 in you. You probably have some 7 in you, maybe even a little bit of some 8.
Tell me what that means.
So a 7 is someone that's extroverted. A 7 is someone who sort of is the life of the party. A lot of times they deal with their pain just by distracting themselves even more. And they're very social. They thrive off being social. It doesn't mean that they don't need to unplug as well. And then 8s are leaders. 8s can be strong. 8s can make tough decisions. They can even be accused of kind of being a bully. However, they're also would be the first ones to protect someone being bullied. And then again, I've already described a 3. A 3 is just someone who's very driven, wants to achieve, wants to accomplish things. Well, here's the problem with that. The problem with that is that we can then find our identity in that. And we don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that because I don't think it's healthy, number one. But number 2, I don't want to do that because of who I am as a person of faith. And I don't want my identity to ever be caught up or solely connected to what I do. I want my identity to be in whose I am. Again, as a person of faith. And so maybe that's a whole nother podcast.
Sure.
So went back and pursued my doctorate, and really it was because I wanted to continue to learn. I feel like I'd gotten a little bored. I feel like I wanted another challenge. I love writing. I love reading. I love learning. And so I did that.
Do you do well in school? Good grades always?
I did okay. I did fine. I got A's and B's in high school, and then when I went and got my master's, you kind of want you want to get all A's. And
you care more.
Yeah, and then when I went to get my doctorate, sort of that my thought was I don't want to just get all A's. I want to know everything there is to know. And now you're learning for the right reasons, right?
Yeah, I found college to be interesting. So I only went to the point of getting a bachelor's degree, but B's, C's along the way, some A's here and there. But when I got to those 400 level classes that were my real passion that I had, all A's.
Yeah.
And whether that was, mine was finance and psychology, and aced all of those.
Yeah.
But general ed stuff, I just couldn't put a focus to it.
Well, you probably learned something there,
get a passion there
about yourself when it's what you are passionate about. You're all in.
I'm all in.
You're all in. Well, the joke in law school is that, the B students are the judges, and the A students end up working for the C students. That's sort of the law school thing. So
that's funny.
Yeah. So when I completed, my doctorate, I had people just kind of chirping saying, hey, maybe there's a path to do something else other than to coach. And what I really want to say to you and, on this show, Matt, is that even though I've coached for 28 years, for 21 of those years, I have also been an administrator. And so this
we actually didn't get into that.
Yeah, this is an important part. I think of my story. So at Rochester, I've coached on the side, Matt. I get paid very little. I've coached on the side. So I have managed the enrollment office. I've managed the fundraising, advancement, and development office. I've taught in our business department leadership courses. I've helped design mentoring programs. I've helped with with our retention efforts. Obviously strategic planning. I've been a senior leader at the university level for the past 21 years. All things budgeting and so on and so forth. So. So when I made that transition in 2006-ish to become an administrator, while I continued to coach, those were really my main jobs. And that actually really helped me, I think, as a coach, because, sort of the thought is if you're a coach, you're just the dumb jock that sits in his office and doesn't really understand it, right? And the blessing of being an administrator was I was able to bring that back to the athletic department and always remind everybody of the big picture. Mm-hmm. And so we were able to, in enrollment, to have record enrollment. And then we ended up transitioning our athletic department really into another enrollment office and really grew enrollment through athletics there. So why am I saying that? I'm saying that to say, so I started to have this sense of, I really enjoy the administrative work and sort of helping lead the institution separate from just coaching.
Yeah. But it's all leadership. When you strip it all away.
It's all leadership.
But it's great that you have had 20 years in the business side as well, right? Which I think is probably fairly unique. Would you say?
I think so. In fact, when I would run around with my coaching colleagues, they would all say, they don't know what to do with me because they're like, you're coaching just like we are, but yet, you're doing these other things. And I've always been somebody by nature who is very curious. I collect watches. I don't normally wear them, but I collect them just because I'm fascinated with, the inner workings of a watch. It's called the caliber. And so just all those moving parts and pieces, and they got to work just right to tell time.
Does my iWatch or Apple Watch have?
Yeah, that one's probably, connected to your, it's probably an AI thing, knowing you. And so my point is that I always have liked to understand how things work. And I'm a detail guy. I'm also a big picture guy. I feel like I'm a little bit of both. And so all that to say, I started to have people in my ear saying, there's maybe there's other leadership opportunities for you outside of just coaching. And so I started to become open to that. And
20 years ago.
Yes, but but all this is the long answer to your question about this recent opportunity.
Yep.
And when that came about, as I've told people, I really wasn't job searching, I wasn't job hunting, I wasn't looking to run from anything. As you referenced earlier in the show, I've had several opportunities I had said no to, but when it came across my desk, there was just something that was intriguing about it. The light bulb started to come on. I started to get more curious. And so that ended up with making a visit. And when I made the visit over there, I fell in love with it.
Fantastic.
And I could, envision myself there. And then, again, I could keep going, but that was sort of the process of what got me interested in that. And then a lot of conversations with family, a lot of conversations with friends. Again, I'm still very cerebral about it. But all the stars just kept aligning. And I thought, you know what, it's time to make a move.
Okay. That's great. The difference from where you're at today at Rochester Christian and then moving to Southwest Michigan College, one of the major differences is that the RCU is a faith-based organization and Southwestern's a public organization. Any concerns on your end for making that transition or any anything you've heard, for people curious of, is this guy going to be able to make the leap from this faith-based? And I know you've had experiences in public organizations as well already, but just walk through that difference there.
So great question. I hope not. For me, there certainly isn't one in me. And when I think about that transition, I just think about excitement and new opportunity. And as you just referenced, I've worked at public institutions before, 2 or 3 of them, very, very large, very much public. State universities. Kent State University had 70,000 students in Wayne State, University of Tennessee. So as you referenced, I've been in that context before. And I would say I've been in that context being the kind of person that I am right now. And that's a person that, who says that my faith is the most important thing to me. Now, here's how I would transition a little bit from that. This philosophy professor that I've referenced a few times, who is a dear friend of mine still, he had this saying, and the saying went like this: in a world where everyone's a Christian, no one's a Christian. And so when I talked to him about this transition, and this very question came up that you're asking, his thought was, what a great opportunity. Mm-hmm. What a great opportunity because listen, that's real life. I mean, whether you're going to, you're going out shopping, or you're walking downtown, or you're at Disney, or wherever you might be going, that's, mm-hmm. You're taking yourself to those places. Right. Bet. And so not only am I not concerned about it, to me, it was an opportunity. It's an opportunity to be able to continue to be myself, and to be myself in every context. And again, in some ways, I think I'm actually looking more forward to being myself in that context. Obviously, I'm talking about it in an appropriate way. I mean, this is not an opportunity to go and I would never do this to push your faith. I mean, that would be inappropriate. Mm-hmm. But I am allowed to be myself, of course, and to lead in the way that that I'm convicted of. And if somebody senses a moral compass or faith, well, then that's great. Mm-hmm. And I think that doing it in that kind of context, to me, is actually more authentic and more of an opportunity, Matt, than doing it in a context where you're actually expected to do it. I agree. Great work. So you teased me a little bit about AI. Anything that you know of at the college, or things that are coming to the college in terms of AI and the future of learning, and that you want to maybe share? Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not sure what the specific conversation is at this moment at SMC related to AI, but I do know that it is obviously being talked about every day, in the higher ed world in general. You bet. And one of the things that first of all, more than anything, I'm interested in just going over there and listening. I need to spend a lot of time listening and learning because there's good, capable leaders over there who have been there for a long time, and they have what we call institutional knowledge. And that is something that I'm looking forward to listening and learning. Just like if someone came to Rochester, I would think that they would maybe look at me and say, okay, you've been here 21 years. Tell me about it. You know what I mean? And so I simply want to treat people the way I would want to be treated. So a lot of listening and learning, and I'll find out, if there are conversations related to pedagogy and how they're interacting with AI. I'm certain that that's true. One of the things that is, I think about AI, and I know I'm talking to an expert here, but it's clear that we have what I would call human intelligence. And then it's also clear now that we have what I would call let me pause. One of the things that I always like to do is I try to take something that's incredibly complex and see if I can make it simple. Mm-hmm. That's always been very important to me. I'm trying to do that right now with AI. So you've got human intelligence, you've got machine intelligence. And now these two things are coming into conflict in the world we live in, more so than they ever have before. Mm-hmm. And what I want to tell people is that one thing that I know is true is that both those things together combined have more potential than either one of them by themselves. Are you tracking me there? Yeah, the collaboration is where the magic is. That much I know. And so if we can start there, now what we've done is in higher education, we haven't made AI the enemy. Mm-hmm. We've created an opportunity. Human intelligence, machine intelligence together, there's more possibility than either one of them alone is the premise. That said, let me give you a couple examples. My oldest daughter recently went out on one of these really tiny one propeller planes. Okay. And she flew around the Santa Monica Mountains in Southern California. No AI on this plane. Okay. It was her and the pilot. And it strikes me that really good pilots can fly a 747 across the ocean and let the computer do its work. And they know how to navigate. They know how to tweak the computer. They know how to tweak the machine intelligence to get that plane there safely. But that same pilot can also fly a small plane with no instrumentation, which means they understand wind, they understand altitude, they understand lift, they understand how to use their senses. You know what I mean? And so I think the people that are going to thrive the most, they can live in both worlds. Again, I want to say that again. Best pilots can fly the big planes with the computer, and they can fly the small planes on intuition because of their training. The other example I'll give, and then I'll pause and let the real AI person tell me where I'm wrong here, is recently I have my insurance guy likes to drop off these Rand McNally big maps that like you think are obsolete, but he still likes to hand them out. Here's something you don't know about me. I collect maps. I love maps. One of the ways where I bring my blood pressure down and I just kind of relax after a hard day is I sit on my couch and I look at maps.
That's interesting.
So several years ago,
there's a psych department at the new college.
I believe so.
Okay,
I believe so. Yeah,
maybe they'll get to the bottom of that.
We'll tap into that. Several years ago, I got so sick of my smartphone and just the distractions and all this, and so I went to the store and I said, "Take this phone from me and give me one of those flip phones now. Like, do whatever you got to do now. Here's my credit card." And they did. And I had the flip phone, and I thought that I was, doing all these things and becoming more healthy.
Going off grid.
And here's what happened to me. Going off grid. Here's what happened to me. A few days went by. I was doing okay. And then I was driving to a high school to go recruit a young man, watch him play. And it hit me. I don't know how to get there. And my phone didn't have the map capabilities. And so the next day I went back in and said, give me my phone back. But here's what I want to say, and then I'll stop. I can read a map.
Yep.
My kids can't read a map. Neither one of my kids, they don't know how to read a map. I can read a map. I know if that road is a seasonal road. I know if it's closed or not. Like all these, if you're in the Pacific Northwest, you better know how to read a map because that road might be closed in the winter. I know if it's a railroad track, or I know if it's, you get what I'm saying.
Absolutely. I
appreciate my phone and I use my map, but I also know how to read a map if I get stranded. And I think that's important.
I don't think I can add anything finer to your examples around AI. I think that if I was to add one thing, it would be you can't put your head in the sand that it's just going to go away. I mean, it's not going to go away. It's going to affect every area of our lives. We're in the most disruptive technological era in the history of the world, and embracing both the human and the machine side of it, we have to do that. It's just you can't put the genie back in the bottle. No. So I think it's just looking for every opportunity to learn, understand how it works, why it works, what the limitations are, and just, act like that pilot, right? And don't forget how to do things on your own, because there will be times, just like when our phones go out, that you'll need to go the manual route.
Yeah.
So I think that's that.
Well, can I add one more quick thing?
You can.
This around this time. I love to write. You referenced that. I love to write. And I have friends. You were talking to one before the show on the phone. And I have some of these friends that love to use Chat GPT, Gronk, whatever the Invoke thing is right now. I can't get myself to do that. But I want to tell you why. I'm sure those devices could write better than me. I don't doubt that. But I like what happens to me when I write.
Sure.
Something happens to me and I like that process. I feel a certain way. And if I write something to you, if I send you an email or I send you a card, the process that I have to go through to find the words to communicate to you what I'm telling you, Matt, is that process matters to me and something happens to me. And I still like that feeling. And again, this isn't a commercial to say don't use those tools. I'm just telling you that sometimes I want to remind my friends don't stop working on yourself. And when you wrestle with trying to find words and put them together, you're still growing. Something good is happening.
Yeah. So what I'll say to that is I agree. You know, there's things of importance that you have to make sure that you're keeping that human element, keeping your scent on fully, right? And I do agree 100% about when you do it, you feel it and it does something to you. And I think that's very important. I think that as you get more exposed to more things, you'll start to see that you actually, for the AI to be as powerful as it can be, it has to be contextually, it has to understand context.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so you'll see and be able to continue to spot if someone's writing something just with AI or with a better trained version of AI. And the only way that AI can get trained is if you train it. And
input. Human input.
It's like mentoring, right? And so you have to mentor and give context fully, to these machines for them to understand, to actually be able to write like you. So if you do end up using it eventually to make things happen a little bit faster, the only way it will work properly is if you give it the context of you.
Wow. Yeah.
So, and of course, it'll never be you, but it can get pretty darn close.
Yeah.
So
and that's a good word.
So it's pretty interesting stuff. So let's bring it in for a landing here. What do you want people to feel under your leadership at Southwestern? What does success look like, and what's going to really make this whole move just worth it for you?
Yeah, great question.
It's a three-parter. So I figured you answer with long sentences. I'm going to start asking long questions.
Wow. Yeah, I think really it's the opportunity to create new relationships. And when I think about leadership, because in large part that's what I'm doing. I mean, I'm going over there and I'm tasked with the responsibility of helping lead the institution. Hopefully lead it, move it forward. Mm-hmm. And what I want to do is I want to start from a place of deep, deep humility. And I'm a big believer in, and this is counterintuitive. And I think the phrase servant leadership, it gets thrown mm-hmm. around a lot. And I think a lot of times people throw it around and they might not even be quite sure of the history of the concept. But the thought of servant leadership it's the only leadership model, Matt, that we have, mm-hmm. where the leader actually divests himself or herself of power. And I think my training, Matt, as a coach has served me well, because if you're going to be a good coach, ultimately what you have to do is you have to turn all the power over to the players. Mm-hmm. Now there's a process. There's a process where you work through that. But I would hope that as this transition is made, that people will discover that all I want to do is come alongside, and I want to understand mm-hmm. before I'm understood. And I want to have a posture of humility, and I want to do whatever I can do to get out of people's way and just empower those people that are already have an understanding and doing a really good job. And I think ultimately the test of a leader is how well they allow other people to lead. Yeah. And can they support leaders, and can they even, dare I say, help create other leaders? I read the other day that, you can't call yourself a leader until you have helped develop a leader. Mm. And I think that's true. And so, understanding that my goal and my desire is to come alongside, to understand, and that we have an understanding that we're better together. And it's amazing what you can get accomplished when no one cares who gets the credit. It's amazing what an institution can accomplish when no one cares who gets the credit, because at the end of the day, it really is a team thing. And the team is good when the individual is good, and the individual is good when the team is good. And, so we talked a little bit about leadership, and then just helping build and shape and understand culture, And culture is another one of those things like leadership that's really nebulous. It's really sometimes hard to, okay, I thought I had it, but I just missed it. It's like a vapor. But I think culture is built and shaped, one day at a time. And you have to do things like be consistent. You have to do things like find ways to be an effective communicator. Find ways to communicate things as simply as possible, like we were trying to do earlier with AI. Because when someone understands something and there's clarity, you inch closer toward trust. You with me there?
I am.
And Lencioni would say that's what we have to have. Lencioni would say you have to have trust. And what are some ways we get to that? We want to get to that as quick as we can, the speed of trust. And one of the ways we get to that is if I'm willing to communicate often, clearly, concisely, answer follow-up questions, insisting that we're both understanding each other, you get to trust quicker. And once you have that, what I'd like to say is once you have that, all sorts of things become possible now. Now you can really start to move in the direction you want to move and get this and get that and do this and do this. Let's try that because trust is established. And so as I move over there, now that was a really long answer, but moving over there, these are some things I'm thinking about. But I guess I would land the plane with that answer to say, I want to make sure I listen, I learn, and that I seek to understand before I seek to be understood, because there's a lot I have to learn.
I love it. On the measurable, like on a KPI type of front, are you looking to grow enrollment there? What are some of the charters that the board or that the folks that, your new boss, is it Tom, did you say?
Yes. He's the chair of the board, but there's 7 board members.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is the board tasking you with?
Well,
that you can talk about. Maybe,
I think I'm going to learn. I think I'm going to learn some of that in the coming months. In the world of higher education right now, especially community college, obviously we're always thinking about, enrollment growth. Enrollment growth is important. A lot of different ways to do that. We can grow enrollment traditionally, and traditionally would be, the high school senior matriculating into college. You can grow enrollment through dual enrollment. You can grow enrollment through, partnerships and articulation agreements. You can grow enrollment through non-traditional opportunities with learning adults in the evenings, or you can grow enrollment through hybrid programs and online programs. And so I just named 3 or 4. Here's another one. You can grow enrollment through adding programs, and some of those programs could be athletic programs, and we saw that at Rochester. We moved from 130 student athletes to 435. Well, we didn't do that just because we wanted to, let's see if we can win more championships. We did that because we wanted to drive enrollment growth.
Sure.
And so those are some things that I think will be important. Fiscal management, making sure that we are sound and solvent fiscally, continuing to create margin with the budget. Also paying attention to endowment. There's a foundation, the SMC Foundation, and what endowment does is it fortifies the institution against any rainy days. You bet, as you know. And then just PR in general, public relations, fundraising. One of the other things too, and we could go on and on with this question, is that the opportunity to make sure SMC's best interests are in the mind of our legislators and lawmakers too. And that's something that hasn't always been, top of the list at a private institution, but moving to a public institution, there are opportunities there. I think I'll be well suited for that. I've already put some feelers out there and have some early conversations with some of our legislators and lawmakers in Lansing and at the federal level in Washington, D.C. And so I'll be very willing to get out and travel. I'll be very willing to get out and lobby on behalf of Cass County and SMC. So those would just be a few things that I'm thinking about related to you asked the technical question of what are you trying to get done. Those would be a few things, but most importantly, just grow relationships and find a house over there.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Well, I think the sky's the limit with what you're going to be able to do and affect change and bring positive leadership there, which I know you're going to carry the torch well. You're going to be the great next 9th steward of the president role at Southwestern Michigan College. And you're doing fine things, and just really appreciate you being here and sharing the story. And I hope that that some of the folks on the Southwestern side of Michigan get a chance to get to know you before they even get to meet you. So I hope this proves valuable to you guys.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me, Matt. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Klint. This episode of the BLTNT podcast is sponsored by Auxium, business IT and cybersecurity designed to outsmart chaos. And powered by Juniper Networks. Automate your network with Juniper Networks and the Mist AI platform, the world's first AI-driven wired and wireless network.